I'm Ernie Humphrey, Educational Programs Leader for Performative, the largest online community for corporate finance, accounting, treasury, and related professionals. I'd like to welcome everyone to today's webinar, Leveraging Technology to Optimize Equity Compensation, Accounting, Reporting, and Disclosures. Equity compensation is an essential tool for attracting and retaining top talent, managing working capital, and motivating employees to think like shareholders. But administering share-based compensation programs is a huge job, and the accounting and reporting requirements can be a burden. Today you'll experience a technology demonstration by Equity Administration Solutions, EASi, to learn how your company can simplify and optimize your equity compensation programs. You will discover how this platform specifically helps companies lower the cost and time it takes to close, delivers clear audit trails, and produces the information companies need for constantly evolving reporting and disclosure requirements. We'd like to thank Equity Administration Solutions, whose commitment to thought leadership helps us make this webinar possible and delivered at no cost. A quick note on today's agenda. First, we'll hear presentations from our featured speakers. Then we'll move into the interactive Q&A session where we'll spend the remainder of our hour. We'd like this to be an interactive experience for you, so if you have any questions at any time, please go to the questions area in your GoToWebinar control panel and send us your questions. So we can't promise to get all of them in. We'll do our best, and we'll follow up afterwards on any we did not get to. A few more logistical notes about today's webinar. A link to today's presentation and video recording will be sent out to all attendees within 24 hours of the event. Note, today's webinar includes a tech demo and as such is not eligible for CPE credits. Again, we encourage you to ask questions on today's topic in the questions box in your GoToWebinar control panel at any time during the webinar. Finally, you'll be asked to take a short survey today regarding the webinar. We greatly appreciate your feedback regarding our event today, as we always strive to improve the ROI we offer our event attendees for their valuable time. Quick word about Performative. Performative is the largest online community and resource for senior-level corporate finance, accounting, treasury, and related leaders. Performative connects corporate finance leaders to provide instant advice and insights on the tough financial and strategic challenges they face every day. Let's get started by introducing today's featured speakers. Don Gelati, the SVP of Sales, Equity Administration Solutions. Don is a 20-year veteran of the equity compensation industry, including experience at Trans Incentives and EASi. Don is an alum of the University of Connecticut and sponsorship director for the Connecticut chapter of the NASSP. Our other speaker today is going to be Matt Abram, Director of Sales Engineering, EASi. Matt has worked with Fortune 500 clients to implement solutions for equity compensation and financial reporting. Prior to joining EASi, Matt has served in various roles at Equity Methods. Matt is a certified equity professional and graduated from Arizona State with a BS in Business Economics. With that, it is my distinct pleasure to hand the floor over to Don Gelati, our first speaker. Don, please take it away for us. Thank you very much.
Well, this is Matt. Maybe I'll go ahead and just take over.
Sure, Matt. That sounds great.
Sure. So if you can just go to the first slide. So this is Matt Abram. As mentioned, I'm the senior vice president or the vice president of sales engineering here at EASi. Can we go to the first slide?
Yeah, you should have slide control, Matt. Just go ahead and left click on your screen, and you got it.
All right. Sorry about that. Perfect. So EASi is a technology company that specializes in stock option administration and FAS 123-hour reporting. So what I'm going to go over in a minute is the system, take you through stock administration, through the financial reporting. But really we want to cover a couple things about EASi as a technology solution. EASi is what we refer to as being a broker choice platform. And what this means is that as a company, we have about 75 full-time employees, and all we focus on is the software technology to manage equity compensation plans. A lot of our competitors are in the business on the software side, but also on the brokerage side, meaning that if you're a private company and go public, or you're a publicly traded firm, they want to develop relationships with your employees on the execution side. So EASi is a little bit different. We offer a choice of brokers. So you can utilize our technology to track and do all the financial reporting, but you're not locked in on the brokerage side. You can pick the broker that underwrites your filing, or any brokerage firm that you would want. We have many brokerage partners that you can choose from to handle the transaction fees. Just giving you kind of a look at EASi as a company, in the last 10 years, we have created partnerships and rolled out the platform to over 800 companies that utilize the system. You can see some of the names of clients that we have across the country. Large publicly traded firms will utilize our technology for the financial reporting. Other publicly traded firms, usually in the 500 to 5,000 participant range, will utilize our system, as I'm going to show you today, as a full administration system as well as a financial reporting tool. And then we also have a number of about 250 private firms that utilize the system to manage their cap tables, all the financial reporting and disclosures, as well as the valuation of their stock options. A couple things about the system and really what separates us from the other systems. I mentioned earlier the flexibility with the brokerage choice, but the system was designed initially by a controller in the Bay Area that had used other platforms, had really just felt that there was a need in the marketplace for a web-based system that focused not only on the administration but on the financial reporting for equity compensation. We got a little lucky a few years later when FAS 123R was adopted, and the company's kind of taken off from there. But you'll see that the system supports over 15 different award types. There's extensive forecasting and modeling capabilities through our ECHO environment, where you can do sensitivity analysis, see what the impact of granting new awards would be, see what the impact to dilution would be for the if the stock price changes. And really, one of the things that we strive to do is automate every process as much as we possibly can. So the system is web-based. We can deploy it to different users on your team. So different people can have different access levels to either run reports or put data in. And we also try to communicate with different systems such as payroll and HR. We have an automated feed that we can set up to send data back and forth between the payroll and HR systems. Some of the things that we mentioned earlier, the system is going to give you everything that you need on the accounting side. So I'm going to go through valuation, expensing, journal entries, disclosures, but also on the corporate tax side. This is something that EASi is very strong in, is the corporate tax deduction related to equity compensation. So we will talk about our deferred tax reporting as well as our disclosures. And we do produce the proxy disclosures, so I'll also show you what that looks like. When we talk about extras and connectors, we're talking about things that connect to other platforms, either payroll systems or to other brokerage firms. And as I mentioned earlier, we have things like the ECHO environment, which allows you to forecast as well as do all of your sensitivity analysis.
This is Don. If you can hear me, let me know.
Yeah, we can now, Don.
Great, thanks. I think we solved whatever the audio problem was. So I'll jump back in here and take a couple of more slides, and then we'll move on over to the demo. So within EASi, you have a single platform that provides the three things that all companies need for stock plan administration, which is administration, financial reporting, and participant-facing web services. So the administrative platform within EASi handles 15 award types, provides a full audit trail, deals with material modifications, both the administration and accounting for those, mobility management. That's in terms of geographic mobility, which is sometimes important with regard to taxation, and intra-organizational mobility. This typically means movement from one cost center to another, like department, product line, tax or legal entity. We can track the mobility of participants, date stamp that mobility, and honor the entry and exit date into and out of various cost centers in order to apportion expense over time to those different cost centers automatically. The ability to import data, whether it's grants, payroll information, terminations, address changes, any of these kinds of things can be imported into the system using secure FTP. Administrative alerts all across the system to help you communicate across your enterprise. For example, when someone is issued a grant, if that person happens to be subject to Section 16 and is a reporting person, the legal department or whoever files the Form 4 for the SEC will be notified automatically. Even if that person doesn't have access to EASi, they'll still get that email notification so that they'll know we now have 48 hours to file that Form 4. Also, communication across the participant experience in terms of emails, as well as online grant delivery and acceptance, document storage for your participants, broker connections to your broker of choice, and EASi works with all the major brokerage firms in the stock plan business, online exercise, online tax payment elections for restricted units and restricted awards, flexibility on share payment methods, net settlement, sell to cover, and also participant emails, things like options expiring, because we don't want our participants to have options expire in the money, new grant notification, automatic emails, also upcoming restricted stock taxable events, automatic emails sent by the system to your participants so that they know that they need to take action there. Matt, why don't you go ahead and just go to the next one. And so next we talk about accounting, tax, and reporting. And the benefits here are whether your company is privately held, publicly held, needing an administration and accounting solution, or a publicly held company that has a good administration system and just needs an add-on accounting solution. EASi can help any one of those three, and I'm sure everybody on the call today is in one of those three types of companies. And so we talk about accounting, and Matt will go through the functions of valuation, expense, corporate tax, dilution, and STC disclosures. All of those under Topic 718 are covered in our system. The expense calculations are in there. There's lots of detailed backup behind those calculations to show your auditors to prove how you got there. There is expense by cost center, about 10 or 12 different cost centers right off the shelf, as I said earlier. And we can, of course, expense straight line or graded, depending on the current accounting policy of your company. Journal entries are produced by the system, the debits and credits for all the activity that goes on with your employee stock plans, grants, exercises, terminations, cancellations, expirations. All of these things create journal entries. The system creates those entries, and you can export them easily out of the system and import them into your GL platform, whatever that platform may be. EPS dilutions here. This is your treasury stock method, or what's sometimes referred to as the common equivalence, to get to fully diluted EPS. EASi supports this. It's highly automated with either the standard method or the relatively new two-class method. Again, whichever accounting policy your company follows, we can accommodate. And here we're bringing in your stock price every day, and that helps us with obviously the treasury stock method, and we're also allowing you to put in a corporate tax rate. And on the valuation side, that's of course Black-Scholes, single life or multiple life. And again, to calculate volatility and some of these other things, we feed your stock price in every day to help get to some of these accounting numbers. On the reporting side, the disclosures are the SEC mandated disclosures, also sometimes known as the footnote and roll forward reporting. Those are all in the system and automatically generated literally within seconds. Proxy reporting, there are about 11 different proxy tables in the system. All you have to do is signify who your 5 or more NEOs for the year are going to be, put a checkbox next to their name, and the system will pull up the share-based information for 11 different proxy tables for your proxy and CDNA. And modeling and forecasting tools, Matt mentioned earlier. And we talk about forecasting in terms of future fiscal periods. What will my next couple of quarters look like? And that's easily done in our platform. And then modeling is generally for things you've not done yet, but you might do. A reduction in force, for example, an acquisition, a dividend, or even perhaps the most common, the grants you haven't issued yet, but your comp committee of the board says to you, well, we might try this next year in our long-term incentive program, but before we roll out this award type to this population, we want to know what's the impact of the P&L going to be. What about dilution? and our tax return. And you can put those awards in EASi as if they were real and run all the reports on demand. And this can all be done because EASi also supports what we call ECHO, which is one of our extras, and it is a sandbox database. It's just a copy of your production data where you can do anything that you want. Okay, so we'll go to the next slide. And here we're going to talk about some of those extras, and I just covered ECHO, but again, it's a copy of your production data. It refreshes to an exact copy either once a day or every 7 days, and you can do training, testing, any kind of modeling you want in the system. It's a fully functioning software platform with a copy of your production data, but you can do anything you want in there, and you won't have any impact on the production data. EASi Rate is a tax rate service, and EASi Rate will give you the tax rates, and particularly the new rates, for federal, state, even localities in the U.S., like school districts and counties, and foreign countries. And we can update them on different frequencies. So if you want quarterly updates on all the jurisdictions in which your company operates, we can do quarterly, we can do annually, we can do monthly. It's totally customizable, and we will provide you with a file that will give the up-to-date rates, whether you're operating in 10 jurisdictions, 20 jurisdictions, or 50 jurisdictions. But when you get into those larger numbers, it is a hard thing to keep up on, and that's why we offer it. Peer group volatility. If you're a privately held company, or a newly public company, 2 or 3 years old, in terms of public life, you're doing Black-Scholes, that means you need peer group volatility. And EASi here allows you to create a weighted average market basket of up to 12 publicly traded peers, and once again, we bring in their prices every day, feed them into a table, and create the peer group volatility calculation for you. So you can use a handful of companies or up to 12. You can weight them how you like, and then the system will give you that volatility calculation, and you can apply in our system volatility for different lengths of expected term. The 345 filer is an EASi extra that will allow you to create, file, and store Forms 3, 4, and 5, which are required under Section 16. And that is something that every public company has to do today. And what the extra does here is integrate with the EASi platform. So, for example, if you issue a grant in the system to someone subject to Section 16, you don't necessarily want to have to type that information in again into your filing tool. And so what we do there is just take a report from EASi and import it into the filing tool. And the filing tool will produce a Form 4 on screen, completely populated with all the tables, both sides exactly as it's meant to be. You can review it there on screen. If it looks good, the system helps you log on to Edgar, creates the XML version that Edgar is expecting, files it with you, and gives you confirmation back of your submission. You can also do test submissions on the 345 filer. On the next slide, we're going to talk more specifically about connectors, and I think we skipped over connectors. There we go. These are connections to other enterprise systems like payroll and HRIS, so we can synchronize tax and demographic data, and it's a two-way. So we will take from your payroll or HRIS address changes, year-to-date FICA, departmental changes, terminations, any data that's in those platforms, we will map and move automatically without human intervention on a scheduled basis into EASi, so that the EASi stock plan database is up to date. And when there's a taxable event in EASi, there's a push out of EASi, once again automated or on demand, and the push is going to bring the information into the payroll system that will characterize the taxable event of, for example, a stock option exercise that someone did, how much tax do they owe, and to which jurisdictions, and that all flows into payroll, again, without human intervention. This can all be automated using web services. The other kind of connector that's most prevalent is connection to your brokerage firm of choice. So your participants can go online, have a seamless experience where online they can see what they have, but if they want to transact, they can transact online, and your participants can do all of that, while the EASi system in the background, again, using web services and automation, is going to talk to, if you will, the website of your broker of choice where the participant experience will happen. So those are certified integrations, and now we're going to go to professional services. Lots of help available from EASi. Data reconciliation and financial reconciliation, we do up front with our clients. When you come on board with EASi, at the outset, we always convert your data for you, reconcile it for you, prove it with the reconciliation, and then move on and do an expense reconciliation for you and give you a report or a letter that you can provide to your auditors. But if you have another action, like an acquisition, for example, this is the most common one, while you're a client, we'll also do that data management for you, the reconciliation, the conversion if there's any positions left on the acquired company, do all of that work for you, because certainly with an acquisition you'll have plenty of other things to do. Consultative support for accounting and tax issues. This is advice and best practices. This is, how are things typically done? How do your clients do something in the system? Chargeback agreements, any other kinds of things, modifications, things you're thinking about, a repricing, a value for value exchange. You want some support and some advice before doing that. EASi is there to support you. Again, more support for corporate actions. This could be a dividend, one-time dividend, a stock split, a reduction in force. But what you want to know before it happens is how this is going to affect your employee stock plans and your financial statements, and that's what we can help with there. IPO consulting, if you're getting ready to go public, what are the things you should be thinking about with regards to your employee stock plans? There are many, many things. That's a whole presentation unto itself. But we'll come in and give you the guidance and talk about and go through with you all the things you need to be thinking about and help you find the resources and the vendors and the processes and the practices that you'll need for a successful IPO when it comes to the employee stock plans. And lastly, specialized business needs. And this could be anything from plan administration, full plan administration, temporary staffing, or just about anything else you could think of that involves employee stock plan management. EASi is there with the services and the technology to help you navigate whatever comes down. I think at this point we're going to turn it back over to Matt, and he's going to set up the actual product demonstration for you and then jump right into the system. So Matt, I'll let you take it from there.
Perfect. Thanks, Don. So I'm at the EASi homepage. So the system, as we mentioned, is a web-based tool that you can have access to anywhere that you have internet. So the advantage of that is obviously, this isn't technology that's loaded onto someone's, local computer in the office. It's an enterprise solution, so many people will have access to this within our, within an organization. So right off the bat, you're going to see that in my demo account, I've got some different roles set up. And we actually have 24 standard roles that you can roll out within your organization. So a good example that I like to use is the stock option administrator is kind of the super user. This person can issue grants, accelerate the vesting, can see everyone who has received grants in the organization. But a reports-only role is often rolled out to people on the accounting group. And this would only allow them to have access to the financial reporting and disclosures within the system. They wouldn't actually be able to issue a grant, for instance, or accelerate investing. So very important for SOX compliance purposes to be able to set up those different roles to limit access within the database. Now I'm going to go into our demo company. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was going to say that's right, Matt, and our audience today would probably know that as segregation of duties under 404 of Sarbanes-Oxley. That's why the system was set up this way, to be able to have different people do different things in a self-directed way, but not everyone can do everything in the system. So it lets you flatten out the business process across your enterprise and yet maintain those important segregation of duties for controls in the operating environment and therefore controls in your financial statements.
Absolutely. So here I am. I'm at the home page of the database. The tool's very easy to use and very intuitive. So a couple things that I always like to point out is that we do have the SAS 70 Type 2, what is now the SSA 16 report. You can get that at any point if you're a client right here off of the link. You can also sign up for training classes whenever you'd like. Now, I'm going to go through the top menu. So here's, you've got your toolbar across the top with different drop-down items, and explain what they are, and then we'll kind of dig through the process of putting data into the system, issuing grants, and then also the valuation and financial reporting. So the FAS 123R drop-down gives you everything that you need as a company to value employee stock options. So everything that you need is going to be here in the system. You're going to be able to, if you have historical data, use that data, come up with an expected life. If you're a private company and need to calculate the peer group volatility, we'll go through that as well. So that's what the FAS 123R dropdown does. Maintenance is really mostly set up during the implementation process. So we want to come in here and set up your stock incentive plans to tell the system, okay, how do we calculate fair market value? What valuation approach are we going to use? Are we going to use the multiple life approach or the single life approach to value stock options? What happens when someone terminates? What do we do with the vesting of that award? How long do people have to exercise? This is also where our email notification engine is, as Don mentioned, as well as our online grant command center, where you can create grant agreements and push those out to the employees for online acceptance. Participant data is where we're going to start. This is where all of the participant data resides. And this is, the way we track data is what gives us an advantage in the marketplace in the sophistication of our reporting. Transactions. So there's two ways to get new data into the system. I can put it in through the interface itself, meaning I can go right here to transactions and I can issue a stock option grant or a restricted stock grant, or I can add a new participant. The other way is by using our import templates, and I'm going to show you what the import templates look like in a little bit. But that's the way the majority of the data during the implementation process would get uploaded. If you were issuing a grant to, say, 30, 40 employees at the same time, you're going to want to fill out one of our Excel templates and upload that, as opposed to going in through the interface and keying that data in. But I'll show you what both of those options look like. Then we've got the report section. So we have over 350 reports that you can run on demand. We also have the ability to allow our users to customize those reports through our ad hoc report tool. So you can add columns to reports, you can delete columns, you can rename columns. You can also build reports from scratch in the report builder. The batch reporting console allows our users to schedule reports. So most of our clients will know that, that they want 6 or 7 reports the first of every month. And rather than actually logging into the system and running those reports, as I'll show you how you can do in a little bit, you can tell the system, run these reports the first of every quarter or the first of every month, and you just can log into the system and download those reports in either PDF or Excel whenever you'd want. The Help tab allows users to ask questions, for one, through the interface. So our team is going to support you with any questions that you have, or maybe questions that your auditors have. You can call our 1-800 number, you can email our client support, or you can go right here to customer support cases and actually ask your questions online and track internally what, who's going to answer those questions for you and see those answers. System Help is a great tool. I use this all the time in my job. Our clients use this. It gives you frequently asked questions about the systems, how-tos, and most importantly, as I'm going to show you in a little bit, reports guides that show all of the calculations for the reports that you're about to see. So very, very important. And the last thing that I'll point out on the top, and another tool that I use all the time, is our EASi search. So one of the things you'll notice about this system, or any system like this that houses data and has multiple reports, is that there's a lot of information in it. So our engineering team really wanted to make it easy to find that information. So the way that this works is like Google. If I'm looking for, let's say, a report on terminated employees, I can type in the word termination, and it brings up a list of reports that has terminations in the report title. So it makes it very easy to find participants, search for reports, all with typing in the search function, and then a click of a button takes you right to that reporting. So that gives you kind of an high-level flyby of the system. Where I typically start is right here at participants. So participants, we have to have participants in the system in order to issue securities to those participants or new grants. And if I go right here to participants, I can see a list of all of the participants we have in this database. And if I click right here on this hyperlink, it takes me into an individual participant's profile. And you can see the different data that we're tracking. So we can have an email address in there to send automatic notifications. Notifications that an employee might get would be, you've got options that are about to expire, or you've got restricted stock that's about to vest. We've got their residence address and business address, which are used to calculate tax withholding, because employees, when there's a taxable event, their taxes are based on their jurisdictions. So that's what that EASi rate does, is it ties the tax rates based on their address to the tax rates that apply to them based on that information. And then at the very bottom, this is probably what's most important on the financial reporting side. You can see the different data elements. So is a participant an employee or a non-employee? The EASi system automatically handles the accounting, the mark-to-market accounting for non-employees. So all you need to do is set that person as a non-employee, and the system will automatically handle that. On the left-hand side, Section 16 Insider ties directly to our email notification that goes out for any transactions related to that Section 16 Insider. Named executive ensures that this person shows up on the proxy disclosures. And then on the right-hand side, these are data elements that you'll see in a little bit that allow us to break up the financial reporting. And this right here is one of the keys to this system and one of the differentiators. Anywhere that you see this little hand with the calendar icon means that this data is date sensitive. So if it changes, we don't just overwrite and wipe out the old data, we save it as of that date. So let's say I want to break up expense and I want to look at that expense by department. The only thing that can throw that off is if people move within departments. But that's not a problem with the EASi system because we have this date effective mechanism. So for example, I can see the effective date where Bill Block has been within this company. The expense would remain locked down, for example, under the administration department. And going forward, as of 3/18/2013, the expense related to vesting or the awards that are vesting is going to hit the operations department. So that's that's one of the things that's very key in our system, is being able to handle those types of transactions and give you your expense or your journal entries taking into account that information. Where I typically go from here is, okay, Matt, you've showed us the employee participant detail. There's a lot of information there. Let's talk about how that data gets put into the system real quickly. So up here under the Help tab, under Documentations, are our import templates. So they're online, so they're always up to date. If you need to add information, you can go right here and pull in the participant template. And you can see we have different templates for different types of information. So that information that you saw for the participants would be right here on the participant-only information. And this is what this template looks like. So it's Excel-based, very easy to use. This is how we would get during implementation if you were switching over from another system or from Excel spreadsheets. We're going to populate this template to upload into the system to give us the participants. So it's as simple as usually taking Excel data from one spreadsheet and populating it so that we know things like, is this person an employee, a non-employee, the date that they started. Down below, you can see some transaction templates. These are used for putting new option grants into the system, putting new restricted stock grants into the system. The other way to get that data into the tool is, as I mentioned earlier, through the interface. So I can go right here, and the only reason why I'm going into, I'm going to show you how to put a grant into the system, which is a pretty simple thing to do. But there's one thing that we do related to this process that's very important on the financial reporting side and oftentimes overlooked. So I've gone into transactions. I'm going to issue a stock option grant. The first thing that I can do is I can search for the participants that I want to issue grants to. I could also search by, a grant type or a department or a title and just bring up the participants that are in that data element. So if I go ahead, I'll just for demo purposes highlight a few participants. We need to tell the system, okay, what plan are these awards being issued out of? What's the vesting schedule? And the EASi system can handle any vesting schedule. You can build those under the maintenance section. They're based on days, the tranches vesting over a certain number of days, quarters, years, however your vesting schedule is set up. So I'll select the vesting schedule, and this is the part that's so important on the accounting side. So in this example, I'm going to issue a grant that was issued back in June. So let's say that these participants were new hires back in June. They received a grant on their start date of June 15th. But for some reason, and this is not uncommon, we didn't put this grant in on June 15th. We didn't put it in, let's say for this example, until July, a couple of weeks later. And during that time frame, what's happened, we've already closed the books on the accounting for Q2. So this can cause a problem, not for the participants, but it can cause a problem on the accounting side, because if in other systems, if you put this grant in back in June, it's now going to increase the expense for Q2, but you've already closed the books. Well, the EASi system is sophisticated enough where it has this accounting create date. And this date, in this example, can simply be adjusted to July, and that tells the tool to pick up that expense that was missed back in Q2 and put it into Q3. What that means to you and your auditors is at the end of the year, they may ask you, we'll go into your stock comp system and run Q1 or run Q2, and let's make sure that it still matches up with what you booked. In other systems, this transaction right here is going to change that, and you're not going to be able to figure out which grants impacted it because there isn't any way to track when those grants were put into the system. In the EASi system, what you've booked is always going to match up. We have the same technology for forfeitures that might get put in the system. So if you have a termination that gets put in the system late, you have that same ability to make that adjustment. So that's all I'm going to go through for there. The rest of this process would just be telling the system what type of grant it is, what shares were granted, putting in the stock price or the strike price of that grant. Now, as soon as that grant, and we'll say that this is a stock option just for demo purposes, is put into the system, it's automatically going to be valued in Black-Scholes. So what the tool does is it goes and it looks over here to this FAS 123R section, and it says, okay, what are my current input assumptions? So it's, again, that same date-driven mechanism where if I go under the FAS 123R section and I look at volatility, you update this as a user. If you have enough historical information as a publicly traded company, this would just simply be your stock price volatility. I'll show you in a second how you can calculate the peer group volatility. But what the tool is going to look over here at this effective date, and you can also have different volatilities applied to different expected lives just because of the look back period. The EASi tool is automatically going to bring in the risk-free rate and match that up with the expected life of the award. And you can also calculate the dividend yield if you have a dividend yield. For forfeiture percentages, same thing holds true here. You can have different forfeiture rates apply to different experience groups. They can apply to everybody, named executives, different award types, all effective as of an effective date. And then the last part of this is for peer group volatility. If you go right here in the system, you can see that you create a profile. Our system is linked up to automatically bring in the stock prices, either daily, weekly, monthly, however often you'd like us to pull in that feed for your calculation. You can give it a weighting. So some companies might weight this more than others, but it completely automates that process so that you can run that peer group volatility. You simply take a look at, the system gives you your full volatility calculation, it weights that, and then gives you your total volatility calc. One last thing before I get into the reporting, under the FAS 123R section, we won't cover on this too much today, but the system does support performance-based awards. Very important. These are becoming so much more common in today's marketplace, granting these types of awards tied to some sort of internal performance metric like sales. The system can handle the adjustments for those periodically, the variable accounting. Not only does it handle it for the expense, but you also have the ability to have that impact dilution in a different way. So that's where these updates would be made. So that gives you kind of the basics on the how the system works. I'm going to spend the rest of the time going through our financial reporting. So right here under reports, and I've already run some of these already, so we don't have to spend any time running them, but we can see the different reports. They're broken up by accounting reports, activity reports, administration. You can see the different nodes here. Just to give you kind of a flavor of the different reporting, if I go under activity and then I pop open options, you can see all the different reports that I can run for options. For example, if I want to see a report that shows all of the outstanding options that are in the money, I can do that. But the main focus of today will be on the accounting reports. So the first one that I'm going to start with is the fair value details report. So if I pop open fair value details now, you can see the different ways that I can run these reports. So I can have it separated by award type, country, department, experience group. I'll simply select award type for this example, and then it brings up the reporting screen. So do I want to run this as a PDF, or web page that I can PDF? Do I want to run it in Excel? What periods do I want to run? As Don mentioned, you can run future periods, prior periods, however you want to look at the data. We also, I'll just point out, support IFRS as what it looks like today. We do have companies that in their subsidiaries report off IFRS, so that's all built into the system. And then I might want to do some more filtering. So by experience group, country, department, branch, location. So I'll simply hit view in browser, and that report will come up. A couple things I'll point out while we're running that report. We do have a number of reports, as you can see in the system. So one thing that we came out with was the favorites tab. So all you have to do is check this box, and this report will show up in your favorites right here. So this report, the option fair value, or what a lot of our clients will refer to this as the Black-Scholes report, is going to show you and your auditors for the period that we ran the report, the input assumptions that were used in Black-Scholes. So here's the option price, the market price, which are usually the same, the expected term that was used in the calculation, the risk-free rate that we automatically pull in. So you can see based on these awards being issued during having different grant dates, different expected lives, the risk-free rate is going to differ somewhat. And then we've got the volatility that was used. So we take these input assumptions in the Black-Scholes, the system computes the Black-Scholes fair value right here, and then gives the total cost of the award. So from there, and I've already run these reports, once we have that fair value, the next report that's obviously very important would be the expense accrual report. And I'll go ahead and I'll pull up the expense accrual report so you can take a look at that. I've broken this report up again by award type, so you can see we've got cash settled SARs up here, which are going to be revalued, and the system does handle the liability accounting for those, and we've got some ISOs. So the system is going to run these reports and show them by participant ID. So we don't want to show names on these reports so we can share them internally. So the report shows the grant date. If there is a forfeiture, the system is going to recognize that forfeiture as of the date. You can see over here in the third to the last column, we've got the forfeiture credit. So this is for unvested expense that we previously recognized that we now get to reverse out. This report shows the fair value and total expense that came over, the forfeiture rate, so you can take a forfeiture rate adjustment. So once we apply that forfeiture rate, we're going to work off of this forfeiture adjusted total expense. Prior expense just tells me all of the expense that I've taken on this award prior to this period. Current expense minus any forfeiture credits is what you would book for the period. and then you've got the unamortized expense of the award. Now, one thing I will say, and I'll point out right here, is that if I hit this download button, it pops this report into Excel. Our Excel reports, you usually have 3 to 4 times the amount of data that a PDF has, a PDF report has. There's just only so much data that we can actually get into that report. From there, we go to the accounting entries. So the system gives you a report that you can use that'll give you the debits and credits for the period. So here's my amortization exercises that took place. I can see some forfeitures that happened during the period. So most of our clients will tell us that they'll take this report, they'll pop it into Excel. Depending upon their accounting entry system, they can make a couple adjustments to that report and then upload it into the system. Moving forward, from the accounting entries, I'll just point out the system does give you the APIC pool calculation. So if you want to track the deferred tax asset and deferred tax benefit for those awards, we do give you the APIC adjustments. The next major report that I'll go into is the common equivalence report. So the common equivalence report gives you your dilution impact. So we give this to you in a summary report, which is right here. So it takes you through the 10 steps of the Treasury stock method to give you the incremental shares for dilution. So you can see that calculation. We also, now that's a summary report. We also have a detailed report that shows grant by grant how we came up with that calculation. And this allows me actually to show off our Help tab menu. So in the system, we have a Help tab which brings up all of the calculations by the different reports. So if I go ahead and let me just bring that up there. Oh, it doesn't look like it has it. So I'll go ahead and skip through, just for time purposes, to the next major report, which would be our disclosure report. So this is, one, I would say probably the biggest reasons companies switch to using EASi, especially from Excel spreadsheets, is this disclosure report. So this is your book, your footnote disclosures. This is from paragraph A240 in what used to be FAS 123R. But these are the items that need to be put on the 10K, or a lot of private companies will also disclose this information to their shareholders. But these are, you can see the list for options goes all the way down to item 47. So there's a lot of different items and calculations that need to be made that aren't fun. I mean, it's manageable in Excel, but it sure is nice to just go ahead and click a button and run this report. So those are the main reports. The last one that I'll just point out quickly, and then we'll open it up for questions, is under the financial section are all the proxy statements. So you can see a list of the different proxy reports here. If I go ahead, and I'll just go ahead and pull up the executive summary compensation table, you can see what that report looks like, breaking down the summary here. We give you the information that we have that needs to go on the proxy reports. Incidentally, if you are a private company, a lot of the information that you'll see in these reports, I mean, they don't match up identically, but a lot of this information is disclosed on the S1s if you are looking to go public. But we give you that information. We leave placeholders for the other information here so that you can populate this. One thing that that I always like to point out to clients is this also helps in just figuring out who needs to show up on the proxy statements, which can be a difficult task to come up with. You can quickly check the box that you saw earlier, identify 7, 8 individuals as named executives, run those reports, total it up to see who actually shows up on the proxy reports, go back, uncheck the box, and run these reports again, and save you a lot of time just figuring out who actually is a named executive for the year. So I'm going to wrap it up there. And go ahead and turn it over, and Ernie, and we can just go ahead and open it up for questions at this point.
Okay, great. Thank you very much, Matt, for that great content. With that, we'll open the Q&A session. Again, I encourage everyone to ask questions today on today's topic via the questions area in your GoToWebinar control panel. First question, I'll direct to Matt. How long does it typically take a company to get up and running on your system?
That's a great question, and it can differ based on where the company is coming over from, if they're coming over from another system, if they're coming over from Excel. Typically what we see is somewhere in the 6 to 10 week range, just depending upon what the data looks like, getting it all up and running. But the process, what it looks like is, first thing we need to do is convert the data, and then we need to run checks on that data to make sure that all of the information ties out. So all of the grants tie out, all of the, we've got the same number of vested shares, all of that information. And then the last part is and we help you with this, is the accounting reconciliation. So we need to make sure that, if there are any differences between the way our system is calculating expense, for example, and the way you've booked it historically, that we identify what those differences are, and then our team can make suggestions around, if it makes sense to book a journal entry for that, or if we simply want to override the system, make sure that it matches up identically in our system, and then we'll make the EASi tool will make the adjustments in the next period.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. Another question. Our next question is around, and again, maybe I'll direct this one to Don if his audio is working fine now. Do you offer global support for awards to international participants in plans?
Ernie, I would say, yeah, we do. If it is a U.S.-based multinational corporation, we can support any of 15 different award types that are granted to those individuals that are outside the United States. We can help with global mobility, and we can also help with the international taxation as it differs in different countries on those types of awards.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. Next question now I will direct to Matt. If you allow people to choose their broker, how does EASi coordinate with multiple brokers?
Yeah, absolutely. So it can differ depending upon the broker. So with UBS, Morgan Stanley, Smith Barney, Merrill Lynch, our system is directly linked into their systems. So the tool we've built data links that send data back and forth between the systems. With our other partners, Raymond James, Stockcross, they utilize our technology and our platform. So the data, we support everything in terms of making sure that the data is linked up. All we need to do is have our clients talk with the different brokerage firms, figure out what makes sense for them, what's the best alternative. Another great reason to do that is you're not tied into a broker. If you don't like the service that you provide, if you don't feel that it's the right broker, you can always get rid of them and move to one of our other partners to make sure that you get the service that you're looking for.
Okay, great. I'll also direct this question to you, Matt. I'll try and paraphrase this question as best I can. There's a question around someone is a managed accounting service provider, so they're using various accounting applications depending on the client's industry they're in. Can these folks use your software to do the accounting for their client stock option plans, even though they're coming from probably multiple systems, and there's very much difference in the plan design?
Yeah, I don't think I think we'd want to get into a little bit more detail around that, but as long as we get you kind of got a feel for the data that we would be taking in. As long as we're populating that data from the other systems and putting it into the templates, I don't see any reason why we wouldn't be able to do that. The system's very flexible, and we do have tools that will automate that process. But you may want to put the comp exchange tool in place to automate the data feed between the multiple systems. But you may want to just run reports manually and update them into our tool. So I don't see any reason why we wouldn't be able to link up in that case.
Okay, great. I'll go ahead and direct this next question to Don, if that's okay. I think you mentioned this in your comments. Don, how does your tool specifically help with tracking employee mobility?
Well, we track geographic and intra-organizational mobility, and we get that information typically fed over from a source system, which is typically HRIS or payroll. And when we get changes to fields like state of residence, work location, or country, the system, as Matt showed, creates a new row in a table, and it preserves all the previous entries, and it date stamps that new entry. So the user can always see, for example, what departments someone has worked in the organization, as well as the current department, or country, or subsidiary, or tax entity. All of these things within the organization are tracked that way, and we separately track residence address and work address, along with things like expat status, home country, host country, and all of those entries are also date stamped and preserved with all the previous entries.
Okay, great. Thank you very much, Don. Next question, I will go ahead and direct to Matt. Can you elaborate on how the payroll systems feed the data in, and also comment on what payroll system EASi currently supports?
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great question. So the beauty of the tool is that we can connect to any payroll system. What the Comp Exchange tool does is it picks up data from a payroll system. So your payroll system, we can schedule it to run a report on a daily frequency or a weekly frequency to get that information. The Comp Exchange tool will pick up that data in any format and take it and put it into the appropriate EASi template. So during the implementation of the Comp Exchange tool, we map the tool and essentially say, okay, put, for example, the data that's in column C from the payroll report and put it in column A of this EASi report. So the tool automatically fills out those templates and then imports them into the EASi system without any manual intervention. The other nice thing about this is if you do change payroll systems, it's not going to be a problem. I mean, we'd have to remap it based on that the feed that we would get out of that new payroll system. But the Comp Exchange tool allows us to link to any payroll system, and if that payroll change, if the payroll system changes the data feed, we can quickly adjust for that and continue to import that data into the system on an automated fashion.
Great. Thanks, Matt. I'll go ahead and ask one more question to Matt, and then I'll ask a final question to Don in order to close out on the Q&A session. Matt, I just want to ask you a question around how firms are using the security administration. You mentioned that there's ability to define several roles. Are firms giving auditors direct access? And also, are there any companies that are actually giving employees any access, maybe to look at the valuation of their shares?
Another great question. So on the auditor side, we can definitely have a role for the auditors that would allow them to view the information, also to run reports if they wanted to get that information directly. So we have seen some of our clients roll this out to their auditors and just give them access to it. On the participant side, what we didn't go into today, just for time's sake, is we have a participant portal that would allow them to see the information. It would allow them to accept grants. They could see the grants that they received. They could have the grant documents. So there's a different role and a different access for the participants that we did not cover today. But if anybody would like to see what that looked like, please reach out to us. We'd be on the EASi portal.
Great. I'd like to direct one final question to Don, then we'll follow up on any unanswered questions afterwards between the participants and the speakers. Don, two-part question. One, what would you say are the greatest expected and unexpected benefits that your clients have realized? And also, what's next on the functionality front?
On the expected and unexpected benefits, it's automation of processes that are so often manual, within companies, whether it's using spreadsheets for financial reporting, keying things into a payroll system that could be automated, dealing with every transaction as a one-off. These are all things that the EASi system can automate. And some of these are the reasons people come to us in the first place, and that's very often to solve an accounting business problem. But the things that they don't expect are these other problems that we can solve and efficiencies that we can gain over the implementation and the full use of the system with the platform and all the extras and connectors. So I think that kind of would be expected and unexpected. What's coming down the road for EASi at a high level, we're going to be adding more private company functionality, enhancing our cap table and waterfall analytics. We're going to do a complete refresh on our Section 16 reporting module and make that even better and web delivered and more integrated than the tool that we have today. We'll be working more on the more complicated flavors of performance-based vesting and accounting with multimetric and tranche-based performance awards. We already do a great job with performance award administration and accounting, but there are still some flavors of it out there that we're working on to be able to support. So I think that and probably a refresh of the reporting engine within EASi, all coming down the pike in 2014.
Great. Thank you very much, Don. With that, I'll close the Q&A session. Again, as a reminder, we prompted to take a short survey once we conclude the webinar. Greatly appreciate your feedback. A big thanks to Don and Matt for their time and insights. They're clearly thought leaders in their field and an excellent source on today's information. Note that in the post-webinar survey, you have the opportunity to express your interest in being connected with either speaker and or our sponsor with just one or a few clicks of your mouse. Again, a thanks to our sponsor today, Equity Administration Solutions, and finally, a big thank you to the audience for your valuable time. We hope to see you again soon at another Performative event or online at www.performative.com. Make the rest of your day great, everyone. We appreciate your time.